turn on the recording so that in case you ever need to revisit this, we'll share the recordings in a few days, and you need to revisit this, you can always watch this. All right, over to you, Dr.
Thank you. Yes, after self-assessment, peer assessment, is time for homework assessment. As you may remember, I had shared a sample case study with you yesterday. So I hope all of you managed to read that. If you did, I will open the floor for 2 minutes and you can share your thoughts on what did you like about the flow of the presentation, what did you maybe dislike about the flow of the presentation, what are the components that stood out for you, what did not stand out for you, how could it have been improved, maybe more refined or polished, was the language okay, did the story make sense, could you connect the dots? So if you could please come in one by one and tell us your reflections on it. Hi everyone, anyone wants to come in? Or would you want me to call out names if you, I hope you managed to read that story, right? It was on nutrition, I believe. Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, hi.
Anganwadi's nutrition. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Who's
am I
this? Hi,
audible?
Tejas. Yes, yes.
Yeah, hi. So I read that story on vegetable gardens in Anganwadis.
Right, right.
So uh, I think the best part I found about it was that there was a small abstract at the beginning, so that ensures what we are exactly going to read below. So it
Okay.
gives us an idea of what this whole the next 3-4 pages are about. Then
Oh,
they have the key pointers in each this thing have been highlighted succinctly. So I think that ensures what. So if somebody wants to just skip through the story, then they can read the part which has been highlighted in bold, right? So I think overall, if I look at this story, there is a the structure is pretty well. So
okay. So Tejas pointed out one very important thing, that if you give the synopsis of the story
yeah, yeah,
right up front, so there's a huge possibility that the reader could comprehend the essence of your story from there and might not like have to go down and scroll and read everything. Also, what is important, bolden that out. That brings on to presentation that we'll talk about. Anyone else? Uh, Maybe Arun, Bhavna, or Bhavna, did you manage to read the story? Hemal, or anyone wants to come in before we move on? What did you, and you can be as critical as you can. If you don't like anything about the story, please let us know.
Hello,
Yes,
Himal here.
yes, Hemal.
Basically, the overall that testimonial which was given at the end, so it
Mm-hmm.
actually gives more connection that how the which can give the perspective clearly, and the way it has been presented has also been where the photos how they have been placed, and overall the presentation is also very beautiful of the story.
Right. So what you were trying to say is adding the testimonial in the end added the right. Okay, good. That we're going to talk about. Anyone else? I heard someone speaking. If you want to come in, Krati,
Yeah,
hi,
this
Krati, Kamini, anyone?
yes,
It's
yes.
okay if you
Actually,
didn't
this is
read the story.
Kamini.
That's okay. You can read it later. Uh,
Hello.
Anyone
Hello. Am I
before?
audible?
Okay, I think we should move on. Something I can see your mic open.
Hello.
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 Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes. Please.
Yes. So actually, points that they have covered, I was thinking on the same ground that these 5 sentences that are mentioned in the starting, they are giving very nice understanding of the entire case study, and also in the last, the numbers that are written over there as an output, that how many people we are covering, how many people this action, this activity has covered. So these 2 points, I think, uh, they are catching attention, I would say. So these are the points I think I was thinking of mentioning, but Yeah.
Great. So Kamini talked
Hello.
about catching attention. So when you write when you write a case study, yes, sorry, Krati, yes.
No, sorry. Please carry on. Sorry, please.
Okay, so Kamini talked about catching attention. So when you write a case study or any writing piece for that matter, one of your considerations should be to arrest the reader's attention. And how do you do that is the trick. Maybe you make
Yeah.
it more visual, or you make it, or pointed out, you give out the synopsis in bolden beginning so that it could read, the reader could read that easily. Kamini pointed out and very essential a writing piece, which is a component, but a consideration that an author must writing. Yes, Krati, your response before we move on.
Yes. To be honest, I couldn't read it before, but I just went through it right now.
Uh-huh.
It's a nice document in the sense it has a very clear heading, and then what we are trying to address and everything is there, and then in the end the testimony is also there. But one thing which I find missing at the first go, not reading the details of it, is there are no credits to the pictures that are given, and exactly like where are these pictures kind of taken, because
I am
and
so
also
glad that you pointed that out, because no one in our series of presentations has pointed that out. Okay, great.
yeah, so these things, and also I could not read the details of it, but it's hard to believe that there won't be any statement which would need sort of referencing, because generally we do write some statements which we take it as default, but they also need to have some cross referencing in the footnote or something that kind of says that what we are saying is backed up with a
Bang on.
credible
I think that's super right.
study and
Yes.
anything. So these are the two things I wanted
Yes.
to add.
Great. I think the responses that I've gotten so far are are very much convincing, which makes my job very easy. So 45 minutes that we're going to spend, they're going to foundational issues so that you even know about it, so others, let's say newcomers or someone who is new to NSF or with a section, gets accustomed to the writing style of it. And also an observation that I made while I read we have been conducting the workshop states, and let me just put it out as a compliment, a shout out to Dave sir, that the pieces and the kind of knowledge products that are coming from Gujarat, style of it has been the best so far. So kudos. And yeah, I don't have to work that much, which is like relief to me and Swati. So anyway, move on. Okay, how to build a case study. And think of yourself as a journalist. Just put yourself on the shoes of a reporter. That you walk in and you have to report. Let's just say an issue. Let's say the water scarcity of the district. What are the questions in hand that you're going to prepare? The questions at hand that you're going to when you walk into that village or that district. So the people or the functionary district functionaries in order to after a compelling case study. What is the situation there? How is it? How is it impacting? How does its situation compare to other district, let's say Patan, Kutch? So how worse is the situation in Banaskantha? Who propose? What are the options? How you recommend? How can you to play to address the water scarcity of Banaskantha district? First step. What is the next step? So what I'm trying to say is, when you have a question bank in hand before you walk into a field to document a case study or even any success story, have a question board in place. What Because in my experience, I can share. So this workshop, I'm making it more interactive and having a two-way conversation, and a very teacher-student relationship that usually all workshops have. So I love you if you have a equal participation as well. So yeah, if you have a question bank before, that makes your job easier by 40%. Trust me. Planning is not an issue for people. Sometimes planning is. process should take up 40% of our overall documentation preparation time. If the key materials or relevant details, or like Hemal pointed out, if interest stories or the quotes, all your job is to capture it, okay, to flesh that out in a compact version. So as writing is important, let's say for that, planning is equally important for you to get there. So, and we move on from here. Oh, while you draft a knowledge product, what are the following things that you need to keep in mind? Again, I said these are very basic. It's important that you, but through this slide, I think this workshop, I think it'll help you brushing up those. So, okay, we live in a world of information overload. We do not write to extensive documents. This is what I've realized, and I think it's true for everyone. Everything has to be scroll worthy. If you look at a social media to Facebook, Twitter, or anything, you need some interest to scroll down and see what's there. So that is, get to the point very fast. Do not be and again. If you a sentence should not contain unnecessary words, no unnecessary paragraphs, for the same reason that not have any unnecessary lines, or a machine should not have any. So every word that you say should convey a meaning. If you want your writing to inspire, to educate, or even to entertain for that matter, you get a great strategy that really works. First things, okay, pointed out in during the assessment, that what is the first thing that hooks readers' attention when you open a new is what arrests your attention before the content of the story, of the headline. So make it as catchy as possible. If you can, at least make it worthy, wholesome, so that it encapsulates the essence of your story, right? Know your audience. Okay, very important. When you again, I'll pitch in my experience. When you writer's block, which is a very popular term these days, when you struggle screen, the first question that you need to ask yourself, that who is going to read my writings? Trust 30% of your dilemma goes away. If you know your audience between, if you begin to write and really take them into consideration before putting your fingers on the keyboard, your writing can become very, very effective. In fact, I think knowing your audience is one of the first or the key elements for good. The more accurately you can imagine reader, the more accessible will be for them. Instead of wondering what the word the audience will, my audience, let's say it's if my audience is not from the war sector, or let's say it's maybe children would need your writing piece, how should I write and review, keeping their persona in mind? So knowing your audience is important. Spell out spell out language. Let's just say case study or maybe any knowledge product, and a person from the nutrition team or the health team reads it, where like a GPTP or maybe a JJM or a FTK, which is a field testing water kit. So they might not be aware of all these technical terms, and this, when they come across it, their reading comprehension spell out in the first place itself. Avoid run on long sentences. Okay, huge possibility that in between. There I would recommend everyone, and you can try it while you write. Keep your sentence as big as 2 lines. If it's exceeding 2 lines, probably the only alternative is add a punctuation in between, or break it into 2. It will make the comprehension for the reader and also for you as as an author very easy. Again, a 5-step mantra that I follow and I recommend others to follow as well. Number 1, write. 2, revise. 3, edit. 4, proofread. So it's not even a 5-point mantra, but a 5-point procedure that you can follow before you get your fingers to the keyboard. And like everyone, most of us are like newcomers. Even I consider myself newcomer in the wash sector, and I've learned writing over time. So even Nobel laureates and Booker Prize winners edit their work constantly, and will only improve after practicing to a great amount. Yes, and then we move on. Okay, and a time for an exercise. So what I'll do is I will share a link in the chat box, which is a sample of a case study, which I got from Gujarat very recently. Uh, your exercise is that keeping all the things in mind that we discussed, keeping all those things in mind, read those case study, read it through let's say a lens of a knowledge management expert or a documentation expert, or even audience who's not aware of the wash sector. Read and let me know what are maybe the loopholes in the story. What did you like about it? The same exercise that you had. It's just that we're going to read it real time, and I'll record real time as well. So I am sharing the link that box. For those who cannot open the, I'll do is I will share my screen, and you can see the story there as well. Okay. Here I share the story. Yes, it's a Google Drive link. You guys can open it. If you cannot, let me know. I will share my screen, which I will eventually. Yes. Yes, identify the errors and suggest how it can be polished. So please put your writing caps on and let me know how can we polish it. I will share my screen. Yes. Yes. So it's a story from Banaskantha. Uh, a story for COVID. So it's very recent. It's fresh out of someone's writing keyboard. These are the details, and this is where the story actually starts. Background, the issue. We have 2 minutes to read it. It's just a one-page story. Please feel free to jump in and suggest your suggest your actions. Yeah.
Uh, Hello. Yeah, Raghav.
Yes. Hi. Is
Yeah.
that
So this
Tejas?
Google, yeah. So this Google
Who's
Drive
this?
link is for Tejas,
Hi,
Tejas.
Tejas. Yes, please go ahead.
So this Google Drive link is a different story, and the one which you are showing on the screen, that is a different story.
Oh, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Can you
Yeah,
read? Can you see the screen?
yeah. So this
Okay,
is
probably
from.
you can read from the screen.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
okay.
easier.
Fine.
Sorry for the Google Drive. Okay, so we have 30 more seconds before we move on. Yes, that's it. I will share story in the Google Drive link. Just a second. Yes, for those who managed to read it, could you please elaborate what include share the link with Krati? Anyone else? Tejas or Bhavna, Arun? What are your reflections? Whatever you've read it. Yes, I can see someone's mic open. If you want to come in. Yes, here you go, Krati. It's on the chat box. But anyway, in the meantime, could anyone come in?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. We lost you. We have 20 more seconds before we move on. So please.
Can you hear me now?
The story is in front of you on the screen as well. So read it and point out.
Raghav, we are losing you. I can't hear you.
No, I can't hear you.
Raghav, we can't hear you.
Yes, hello. Are you all there?
Yeah, we are there, but we are losing you.
Okay, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyone wants to come in and share their reflections on the story? Krati, did you manage to read it? Bhavna? Tejas? And someone else was speaking, so I lost him. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the same link that you have shared in the drive, but I think it's okay.
Okay, it was the same link. Okay, they just told me it wasn't.
No problem. Can you just go into the start of the document for just a look?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm at the top. Yeah. Yes, tell me.
Yeah, can you just scroll it once and just like once the document?
Okay. Which area are you pointing out at?
It's like continuously, you can just scroll it once for me.
Okay. Anyone else while Krati is reading would like to come in?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
That's the only way. Bhavna? Anyone?
Hello.
I can. Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Arun. Yes.
Yes, sir. So I read this document. So the document had the clear subheadings that the issues, then who is the contact point, and the heading that makes it very easy to understand which part is the issue, which is the outcome, and what is the output of this case study. So that was more clear. So which I was also expecting in the first document which you showed. So this makes
Okay.
more clear reader. The thing in this document which if I read as an external person, for the heading for instant is something very common. For example, I through the heading I don't understand that whether the document is going to say about something about sanitization or related to wash or something. So the heading is like a very open like heading. So which
Right.
so that, and the other thing is that the even the background part gives a very
I
large
see.
amount of
So
information.
can you all hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay, great. So he didn't find the title very catchy, so that he couldn't understand from the title. And one thing that he liked was a good
Raghav, hello.
compartmentalization. Let's say the argument, right? I don't know if my internet is weak or I can't hear you all.
There is a problem in
I
communication.
think the internet.
Your voice is breaking, Raghav. Regularly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that okay now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
I will
it is
speak like this
fine.
now. Okay, okay, sorry, just a second. Let me just, my internet is really bad, sorry. Yes, so anyone else need to point out before I connect my internet?
So, am I audible?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
So, I have one query regarding this success stories or case studies, whatever we document, whatever knowledge management product we document. So,
Yes.
I have seen that many a times some of the stories are human interest stories and some are more related on the interventions which we try to document or whatever
Exactly.
activities we have done.
Exactly, exactly.
What I have seen is that is it advisable to so many a times the reader is looking for the quantitative part only and less on the qualitative part. So is it possible to document the quantitative means whatever numbers are involved in the story differently, or should it be included inside the document itself? Means inside the
Right. So this is exactly the right. So this is exactly the demarcation between, or the difference between what is a case study and what is a human interest story. A case study that you will document probably everything, including the like what intervention worked, what outputs did it lead to, what was the outcome, what are the lessons that you learned. So that will be a case study. Like when you say that how did let's say Patan district become ODF, that would be a case study. But when you say, how did children from Patan, or let's say a young adolescent girl from Patan, accessed sanitation services while the district become ODF, that becomes a human interest story. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, and now I share my screen. Sorry for the delay. Yes, so sorry. Okay, now we move on quickly, Taylor, swiftly. Okay. The case study that both of you have produced. And these are the two excerpts that you can see on the screen. I will give you 1 minute, go through it, and you'll actually point out what are the errors in it. So you remember the English grammar class that you had in school, where used to be scored for editing and omission? It's right that. It's, yeah, so you go through all the paragraph, there are 2 paragraphs. So go through it and let me know what are the errors, point out the errors. Yeah, so it's nitpicking. It's going to be a very nitpicking exercise. Point out the errors in less than a minute. Thank you. I'll request people who haven't spoken yet, please come in for this. Bhavna, I think you haven't spoken much. I'll request you to start this, please. Okay, let's, I think we should begin. People can point out error as they read. Who's the first one to come? Yes, anyone wants to come in? Hello?
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Yes, please come in.
Yes, Himal Raj. So, firstly, I would like to say that the
Hello,
sentence,
yes.
paragraph or the sentence can, the paragraph or the
Yes,
sentence
hello,
cannot
please say.
begin with a number. Hello. The sentence or paragraph should not begin with the number.
Perfect, perfect. What else?
Yes. Then there are some of them are grammatical mistakes.
Can you point that out
And
very quickly?
like 51, this the first sentence only itself. So they have used whereas 43% are coming. So they have repeat means migrant harvester. They have written once, but still they have used it once again harvest. So it was not needed. So redundant use of words also, and also no commas wherever, means they have missed out comma, and at specific points like for defecation they have been using open space only. So this sentence can be framed properly rather than this way. It's hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
I think we have lost.
Hello.
Raghav, are you there?
Yes.
Raghav?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe you can.
Yeah, I have completed with my hello. I have
Yes,
completed with
hello.
my assessment. Yeah, I have completed with my
Okay, anyone else wants
review.
to come in other than Arun?
Raghav,
Himal has reacted to his observation.
yes, Raghav.
Yes.
So I find the first sentence they have changed the tense. For example, first sentence starts with the come from Gujarat, and then later it goes from or like coming from Maharashtra. So the tense are not maintained.
Exactly. To maintain a constant verb tense, right?
Yes. Then similarly, some other point like the temporary habitats are on the outskirts, comma, on barren, unused. So here they too much of comma and then the sentence meaningless there. This sentence, the temporary habitats are on the outskirts, comma, on barren, comma, unused lands. So this is difficult for the reader to understand. So what that
Correct.
sentence exactly
Correct.
means.
So in my opinion, now the errors that I have pointed out, I've listed them in purple ink in the right hand. Like Arun and Tejas pointed out that the tense is not right. The tense, you have to keep a constant tense. Let's say 54% of the migrants coming from Gujarat, then also has to be the same tense when you say that they're also coming from Maharashtra. So it shouldn't be, one shouldn't be present and the other shouldn't be present continuous. It has to be consistent. Remember you talked about consistency in writing style. Also, you never start a sentence with a number. If you have to write 54%, spell that out. FIFTY 4%. You never start a number with a numeral. Use plural nouns whenever writing multiple objects. Do not capitalize common nouns. If you see defecation, the word defecation has been capitalized. It's a common noun. It's not a name of a name of a person, place, an animal, or a thing. So it's not a proper noun. You have to make it lowercase. Do not begin a number with a sentence, as you said. Okay. So if you say, another thing for consistency that I wanted to point out, in the first paragraph, you're saying that they're migrants, right? Did you all see that? But in the second paragraph, you're saying that you're calling them as harvesters. So again, like I told in the beginning, if you use the only one term for explaining two different meanings, that really challenges the comprehension of a reader. If you call them as migrants, address them as migrants throughout. I hope that makes sense, right? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Another exercise. So you see this paragraph below. I will request, okay, so gender representation. I'll request the women to pitch in for this. All the women in the room. They will help me correct this. Read this very small paragraph. It's very complex. Very honestly speaking, I could not understand what is written here. So if any one of you can help me, it'll be great. Yes, who's coming first? Krati, Bhavna?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, so this sentence, even I am finding it difficult to understand. So the saying SPM shifted its focus from IHL toilet construction to CSC's construction, fine, but there needs to be a break there. It's the same sentence going on, which is not then making sense as a sentence when we are saying construction, Dalit habitats without any proper in Gorakh block for behavioral change and Swachhagrahis. So it's like there's no break. There's all this one continuous sentence which is going on, and as a one, it's not making any sense.
Absolutely. So did you all see how did Krati, while reading through this paragraph, was lost in between, was lost in comprehension, also in translation, that she couldn't understand the complex words. So
there's a lot of
yes.
forms. At first, we must avoid using that if we are having documents for public.
Great. So, okay. First time using abbreviations, please spell them out. What is IHHL? If a non-WASH person reads it, he will never understand what is IHHL. What is CSC? Community Sanitation Complex. Watch out for run-on sentences and random capitalization. I reiterate this, and I see this error in a lot of documents that all of us prepare, that they capitalize the word Swachhagrahi. It is not someone's designation, it is an occupation. So I believe this words like Swachhagrahis or Jal Mitras or Jal Sahiyas should be in lowercase. And if you use a Hindi word in an English narrative, please make it in italics. If you make that in italics, also make sure to give a context of that in the parenthesis. Let's say if you introduce the word Swachhagrahis, if a person from an international audience reads it, he wouldn't come to know what is a Swachhagrahi. But if you specify in the parenthesis that they are sanitation volunteers, or Jal Sahiyas are volunteers for water security. So it will not, again, let's say, challenge the reader's comprehension. So yes, this is the basic thing that I want to talk about. And run-on sentences. Do you see it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line long sentence, and there's a huge possibility whether a non-wash or maybe any reader reads it is lost in between. So make sure that you put your sentences as short, as crisp as possible. I have done one example for you. I hope, Krati, is that easily understandable now? I hope it is. I mean, this is my version of it. You are more than willing, more than open to correct it as well. Now, is it easily understandable, or do you want, or do you find any error in this as well? Right. Also, would you note that I haven't used the word Dalit in this paragraph? Okay, it's not wrong to use that, but it's my opinion, and this is what I have read in most UNICEF documents, that you do not use. I mean, if you share this context, if you share this paragraph, let's say with an international audience, because we publish most of our stories on ICON, which is where the UNICEF headquarters actually sees those studies. So they wouldn't understand what the casteist context that that the word Dalit comes in. So it's although it's not wrong, but I prefer to use a generic term, let's say socially excluded communities, so that it's easier for the external reader who might not have the background of let's say the words that we use in very Indian lingo. So it's important that you point that out and make generic statements and not very specific that is not understandable by another audience. I hope that makes sense, right?
Yes.
Right? Okay, great. So yes, another very quick exercise. Now I want someone else to come in before you move on. Again, you have to point out the errors and let me know what works, what hasn't worked. People who haven't come in, Kamini, Vaishali, Bhavna, I would like them to respond now. Right. Who's coming first?
Hello.
Yes, Bhavna. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, please come in.
Bhavna this side.
Yes.
So this C4D, if I'm like reading from a layman's term, I'm not able to understand what is C4D.
Right.
So
Okay.
it needs
Expansion.
also, yes.
What else?
So
okay. The thing that I've used this paragraph is to explain two things. While it's important to spell out acronyms, the full form of it, let's say risk communication and community engagement, which is the full form of RCCE, it is not a proper noun. It is a common noun use of it is a name of a strategy. So it's important that you do not use it uppercase. What I want to say here is, even if the word is an abbreviated form, the expansion of it does not necessarily is not necessarily an uppercase word. For example, if you expand NSS, let's say National Service Scheme, it's a proper noun, it's a name of service, it's a name of a scheme that has been implemented by the government. So that would be capital. But something like an infection prevention and control, which is a common term, a common noun, should not be in capital, even if it has an abbreviation. I hope it makes sense. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, yes.
Right, Krati? I hope it makes sense.
Yes, yes, it does.
Right. So this is one error that we encounter a lot of times. Okay, now moving on very quickly. Okay, now you see my screen. We have a set of resources that right after this workshop I will share with you, which is a template for a human interest story, the style book. A UNICEF style book has a lot of information on the UNICEF lingo that we use. If you can see on the screen, let's say I've given an example of that lingo, that we don't use the split up the word hand washing. Hand space washing is not that we use in our vocabulary or our lingo. We use a singular term, hand washing, for it, which is no space in between. And the only way that we spell, I think UNICEF spells COVID-19, which I edit in almost all documents, is capital COVID hyphen and a 19. You do not write everything in smaller case, or you do not write corona disease. It has to be COVID-19. So this kind of UNICEF lingo that we usually use in documents has been provided in the style book. So before you share any document with maybe a supervisor or anyone else, just go through that style book and see what is a word that you need to replace, what is a word that you need to correct. So that style book will be very essential for you. Again, consent form that we're going to talk about in a while, template for collecting human interest stories. So we have a template, although let me just put it out there. Human interest stories and case studies, you have all the liberty and the creativity to draft it yourself. But if you're finding any difficulty to, like I said, ask the right questions, please refer to that human interest story template so that you can structure your conversation with your beneficiary or the case study or someone, the case study functionary. You can plan ahead in advance. That help you in planning ahead in advance. Yes, and now common issues. Okay, what are the common issues that we usually see? Do not capitalize government until and unless it's a proper noun. If it's government of Gujarat, only then capitalize it. These are the very common nitpicking issues that we encounter in documents that you can correct the next time. If government is used in a running sentence, please do not capitalize it. Acronyms, like I said, always spell that out. What is RWS? We know it, the others don't. So, rural water supply. And the structure of the reports and the assessment that you carry. The ideal, this is an ideal case scenario. The ideal case when you design a report or a process document or an assessment report, maybe an evaluation report as well, which is different from a case study, is this. One is introduction. And of course, you'll get background and context coming with the methodology. How did you conduct that intervention? Or what did, let's say it's a workshop report. How was the workshop conducted? How many people participated? The program design or the intervention. How did UNICEF participate in that workshop? What contribution did partners have in that? How government were the stakeholders? Those and the results, let's say someone pointed out that what is the output in the outcomes. You have to reflect that as well. And discussion would entail what are the lessons learned, how do you plan to take it forward to other districts if it's a workshop training, or if it's an evaluation, what are the learnings that you gather from the evaluation and that you can help inform policies. Let's say someone said strategy management. So this is what discussion, the last section discussion is going to be about, because how your evaluation or your assessment that you conduct will inform strategies or policies at a higher level. So how, I hope you can now correlate. Human interest story. Okay, so make sure whenever you write a human interest story, let's say of a young adolescent girl who just got access to sanitary pads. I'm just taking a very, I'm just taking an example very aloud. So if you want to document that, it's important that you not only focus on her story, but also her community story as a whole. How did that impact as a whole? If a girl has got access to sanitary pads, how will her education be impacted? How will her family be, how will she regain dignity and a normalized conversation around menstruation? So not only focus on the individual, but on the whole big spectrum around that story, around the subject, which is the girl in this case. I hope it makes sense now. And now, okay, this is my favorite slide. Checklist for submissions. So while I was drafting the slide, I imagined that this was the ingredients that you need for a good case study. Just like you need a set of condiments to make a meal, you also need a few ingredients to draft a good case study. But later I realized these are the ingredients that could be used maybe for any knowledge product, not only a case study, which are number one, background, context, introduction. If you're talking about, let's say, I saw a story, the story for you read on migrants. No, from the Banaskantha dairy. If you could give a background about it, and how did it start, or maybe rather without beating the bush and elaborating that. So a background would help establish the context for the reader. Next would be problem statement and challenges. What is the issue that you are encountering? What is the issue that the place is encountering? If you walk into a village to report a water scarcity, or maybe to report at how that did that district turn ODF, first record what are the challenges that it was facing in the initial phase. Were there no toilets? Was there no water to drink? So establish a problem statement so that on the basis of that, you can say that how did UNICEF come into the role and overcome the problem. This is supremely important. While I read a lot of case studies, while they're well documented, they often lack UNICEF's and partners' role in it. Like, how did UNICEF support? If you remember reading the Banaskantha stories, I do not recall reading what is UNICEF's role in it. How did UNICEF support that? So now you have to, because this is something that the donors would look for. If I'm a donor, if I'm funding your intervention, I will see, okay, how my money is impacted. How I see my money is impacted, that how is UNICEF acting on ground. So UNICEF's intervention is supremely important. Description, answer these 5 questions. Who, what, when, where, and by whom. Who did what, by whom it was done, was the government in play, the partners came in, was it a very a community driven intervention? So all these questions need to be answered in a case study, even if you're writing a report as well. Who did what, who imparted the training, who were the recipients of that, who was a facilitator. These important aspects should be there in a report as well. Okay, now this is, I want to put in a question here. If anyone would tell me a thin line of difference between what is an output and what is an outcome. Can anyone come in? What is the difference between an output and an outcome? I'm asking, could anyone pitch in? If you don't know, you can just give it a try.
Hello.
Yes, please, Kriti.
Am I audible?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So as you've already listed down in the box, I'll take that example only. So when we are saying like output is the product that we have, as you have listed number of trainings conducted. That's an output. But that training, what impact that has created in terms of the capacity building of these many teachers or these many this thing, and then how it is going to impact on the field is the outcome of it.
Absolutely, perfect. So just to take one more example, let's say under the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, 7,000 watershed structures were constructed in Patan district, let's just say. Now this 7,000 watershed structures, this is an output. This is an immediate result. So outputs are always short term. When you say of outcome, that would translate as, how did these watershed structures that you constructed in Patan, how did they end up increasing the water level, the groundwater table, or how did they impact on the water scarcity that Patan was facing? Let's just say, if I say that the water table increased by, let's say, 5 levels. So this is an outcome that happens after a very long time. It's a long-term process. So I hope you got the difference, and exactly what Krati pointed out. Yes, lessons learned and way forward. Okay, so this is true for both if you write reports and case studies. What are the lessons that you learned? What are the, if Patan district has been declared ODF, what are the lessons learned so that maybe other districts could replicate and emulate to become open defecation free? What is the way forward? Is just if you remember that story that you read for the for the Banaskanta dairy, it had a very abrupt ending. It had no ways forward, and like how do you plan to take the initiative forward? So it's important to also have a key takeaways from the stories as well, which is again ways forward. And someone pointed out that adding a human angle to the story really adds story to the case study. So if you get a quote from the beneficiary, it will add a human touch to your technical piece. That really works. Or if you could maybe get a quote from a government official who has been on the forefront of your intervention, if you get a quote from them as well, the uptake of your story will be very higher. Because if someone reads it and says that, oh, okay, the chief minister has said this, so that means the credibility of that story eventually increases automatically. Yes. So, okay. Talking about convergence. Now,
Raghav,
yes.
there was one question. How important is it to include the cost of intervention?
Okay. Cost of intervention, it is very important. Okay. It is very important. If you're writing in that report, you can probably mention that in the program design or the intervention section, right? You remember that I talked about in the common issues thing, the structures that you make. So you can add that there. And also if you write a case study, it's important that if you mention the cost, you also mention the returns that come out of it. You know what I mean? To connect the dots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you say that, okay, that I have INR 7 lakh have been invested in this project, how will that translate to a concrete result? Like that, a 7 lakh investment would lead to 5,000 women being employed in the factory. I'm just taking a random example. So if you can connect that with an immediate result, that would really that could really help you in connecting the dots. Does that answer your question? So even if you
But
mention the
most of
cost,
the time, we struggle to get the cost of any intervention because they generally do not share this particular, they are not ready to disclose financial things with us.
I understand that it might be very confidential information, but if you can do, it's not a hard and fast rule that you have to include the cost, but if you do, and if you do and you have an evidence that how did that investment impact your intervention, that would really add up to your story. I hope that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so now in the development sector, especially in UNICEF, I have observed in the past few years that a lot of importance has been given to convergence, which is integrating your WASH program with other programs as well. So if you see the WASH program in India is not working in a silo, is not working alone in a room. It is working to fulfill the program objectives of other sections as well. Let's just take an example. If you're working in, let's say, the for wash in Anganwadis, for grey water management, when you say Anganwadis, there is a lot of scope for you to write about nutrition as well. How does grey water management impact the nutrition of a child that is studying in an Anganwadi? This is exactly what convergence means. In terms of writing, convergence helps you to expand the canvas. Now, I know of that Gujarat has been doing some great work in PPE production. So if you have set up a PPE plant, you see how does that PPE plant or that that self-help group that has been producing PPE masks, how do they employ women, which is integration with gender programming. So convergence helps you to expand the canvas, think beyond the wash box and move into other territories as well. So if you're, I know one of you is working in wash and health. So if you're writing about health, if you're writing about infection prevention and control in a healthcare facility, you also have to have a scope to talk about other hygiene aspects. Like, do hygiene standards are followed in hospitals? Do the staff washes their hands right after making an operation, or maybe in a quarantine facility? So you have a scope to expand when it comes to convergence. Let's just take I'll go back to the example of the Jal Shakti Abhiyan. Under that, you made a lot of water conservation structures. So how will that help you in water conservation, which is again a big issue that is coming up for all states when it comes to climate resilience? I know for a fact Gujarat has been doing some great work in making disaster resilient toilets. So how will that help in climate change? So, expand the canvas. And while you expand the canvas, it's also important that you keep children at the forefront, at the center stage of your narratives. Let's just say, again, go back to that same example. Patan has been declared open defecation free. Okay, that is a complete statement on its own. But how is it beneficial to UNICEF if there's no mention of children in it? If Patan is declared ODF, how will the children be impacted? Will they have a cleaner environment? Will they have toilets to go to? Will their schools have the toilet? So inclusion and putting children at the center stage of your narrative is only when your writing piece becomes relevant to UNICEF. I hope that it makes sense. If you say that the village secures 100% water supply in through the past 1 year. Okay, great. But will it provide clean water to children? Will it satisfy? I mean, lead to a better health or mortality rate of children? Will that help impact in that? So you have to document that as well. Do not limit your case studies or your reports that you write only to the interventions that you do. Try to converge, try to keep children at the center stage of it. Okay, then before I'm sorry, our presentation is going a little extended, but I think that's okay. I think that's worth it. So all the ingredients that we discussed were ideally for a case study. But if you see, you can also use them for writing other documents as well. Like I said, for field reports, for evaluation reports, for process documents. You follow the same tips, follow the same grammatical rules, follow the same rules, let's say expansion of jargons, knowing your audience. While you know your audience, even while you write the technical documents, your job becomes much, much easier. And also, I know you must have attended or been a part of a lot of presentations over these 5 months, because all we are doing in the past 5 months, like, is of course you're working on the field, but you're also attending a lot of Zoom presentations and PPTs. And this is what I wanted to talk about before I move on to some other logistic stuff. Yes, what are the quick tips before you conduct a presentation? Because I'm assuming that you people would have been on the front line to conduct functionaries online, right? So what are the steps that you can take before? Plan before. Always, you should have your talking points written before you actually you open your mic, right? You should have your talking points before. Again, know whom are you speaking to. For instance, tomorrow I'm going to have a presentation with a group of school children, so I'll keep the module very slow, very easy to understand for people. Yes, someone wants to come in. Sorry. Okay, so keep it simple. Presentations should never have big text blocks. Always have bullet points. Make it very visual, so that even if the people are not hearing you, they can visually see what you're trying to say. Stick to the time limit. Okay, so I'm sorry we are not sticking to the time limit right now, but the speaker always has the urge to say a lot more when he's given the mic, but you have to control when it comes to the time limit. If let's say I'm sharing my experience, we usually have all staff meetings on every Friday, and there knowledge management has been given a 5-minute slot. So we have to really make an elevator kind of pitch, like, okay, like, guys, do this, do that in that 5 minutes, in that 5-minute slot. So you have to stick to the time limit, and yeah, beat fast. Again, come to the point. Do not beat around the bush when you are giving a presentation. And always, as a good practice, as a good knowledge management practice, always share your presentation after the workshop is done with the participants. This is something important. I see people not doing that, which kind of means that the speaker was not really caring about the participants and the interests of the participant that he or she evoked. So in order to as a good knowledge management practice, you'll always share the presentation with the viewers after you close it. Okay, now some very quick logistic steps. Take a wild guess. Where is this picture from? Anyone? Where is this picture from? You all know, I'm sure most of you know it. At least two of you, I'm sure you know it. People from Surat know it.
Yes. Yeah, it
Yes.
is
So
the tertiary plant.
anyone else who's not from Surat, I'll request them to speak. Anyone? Bhavna, you want to take a guess? Where is this picture from? And what is this picture?
It's, I guess, water treatment plant.
Okay. And where is it from?
That I don't know. I'm not
Exactly.
from
Because
Gujarat.
okay, so you don't know because it's not written. That means caption your photos. I'm so glad someone pointed out this in the sample case study that I shared. If you do, a picture speaks 1,000 words, but it's also important to give a little more words to the caption in order to give a complete picture. Always caption your photos, always credit the author. Okay, so this is something that UNICEF stresses on. If you see a lot of UNICEF global documents, you will come across that they're very particular in giving credit to the photographer. So always do that as well and caption your images. This was actually the picture that you saw is a waste treatment plant from Surat, right? Which is a smart city now. So you don't know it because it's not written. So whenever you click a picture and put a picture in your report or your case study, give a caption to it. Where is it from? Who has clicked it? What is in the picture? Also, second important thing, consent. If you take a person's picture, let's say a child or maybe anyone, take their consent. As photographers, we have a soft power. That soft power is that we have the power to represent the subject that is in the picture. So you need to take consent of the individual before you take it. Maybe let's just say he or she is not comfortable in going public. So you need to take their consent much before in advance. How do you take your consent? We have a consent form that I will share with you after this presentation. That consent form, if you could get it signed by that person, if you can, yeah, that will be great, and document that. That'll be great. But we know that we have eased up the consent taking norms in this COVID time, because we know that all of you are stuck at their homes and cannot actually travel to the fields to take consent. So what is easiest is that you can also take consent on WhatsApp. For instance, if you take a picture of a girl or maybe or any child, and you can ask that person's guardian to write it on a piece of paper or on a WhatsApp message that this is the name of the person and this person gives full consent for UNICEF to use its photograph. They capture that on WhatsApp. Ideally, like I reiterate, there is a form, but if you cannot fill the form, take a WhatsApp screenshot. I will share a sample of both of a formal format and also a WhatsApp screenshot, a sample WhatsApp screenshot that that you can identify and take from the people that you click, right? Also, on an additional note, you do not need to take consent from government officials and public functionaries if you take their photograph. Only if you take photographs of general public or maybe children, if their children are less than 18 years of age, then consent becomes mandatory. Okay, file naming. Now, this is a very undervalued and underrated tactic of knowledge management, file naming. We don't see, okay. So like a title reflects what the story should be, a file name should respect what it contains. I usually suggest a nomenclature for everyone to follow, which is that your file name that you save on your system, or maybe when you share it with Mr. Dave or anyone, let's just say, you should have a particular nomenclature in which your file should be named. Which is, I mean, UNICEF if you see read the global branding guidelines that I will share as well, you will see there's a lot of emphasis paid on file naming convention. So this is what they follow, and I recommend you to follow as well, which is the date, where like you see 18/05/9/10, which is the year and which is the year and the month and the date, and the subject of it. What is it exactly? The standard operating procedures for installing defiltration units. And if possible, give the location in the end as well in parentheses. So the date, the subject of the file, and then where it is from. If you can go ahead and maybe, if you have a product in Gujarati language, you also mention that in bracket that it's in Gujarati. So if you do this, right, there's an automatic style that your folder follows. It will automatically line up all the documents year wise. So it's a good tactic for file management. So which I will recommend everyone to follow as well. And I am done with my presentation. Now we have at least 5 to 7 minutes for question and answer. I'm done with all the talking. Now I would request you to please come in with reflections. What did you like about the presentation? What did you dislike? Please be as critical as you can. What did you learn from it? And yes, what is something that you would want to learn in the next installment of the workshop, where that will happen in the 3 to 6 months? I think in the span of 3 months. Yeah. So what are your reflections? Any questions that you have that I missed out on? Please feel free. You have all the floor open. Please come in one by one and you can ask me questions as much as you can. Thank you. Anyone? If you don't ask questions, I'll assume that you either were not paying attention or you didn't like the presentation. Sorry for that.
Hello.
Anyone? Yes, Arun.
Yes, sir. So the presentation was good, and it gave a lot of inputs on improvement of the knowledge products. The things that I like mostly make mistake during my writing is that I used to write so fast that I used to make so much grammatical mistake. So generally what I used to do is to correct my mistake. I used to finish it and then use this Grammarly software to correct my mistakes.
Yes, even I use that. Right.
Yeah. So I used to use the Grammarly software to correct my mistakes. So it would be good if we could have some this grammar inputs directly, so that we can correct those mistakes during the writing, or the writing part, which how do we frame sentences, those things. So that might make more
Right.
input. And also the presentation part, sometimes the issue is that we were not given any UNICEF formats before for a case study, or even the UNICEF document logo size, where we have to keep the logo, or which government logo on which side we need to fit. These things were not mentioned during our joining. So that would be an important thing, because always I have seen UNICEF document has a standard logo and standard page number. What size of text is clearly mentioned in the title part, and then the text size in the content part. That can be an input in your future documentation or presentation time.
So just to answer your question, Arun, right after this workshop is over, I will share with you a resource kit that will have the style book, which will help you with grammar and all the UNICEF language that UNICEF follows. One. Second would be the consent form, like I talked about, templates for writing case studies and human interest stories. Also, like I said about captions, I will also share a sample on how do you write captions as well. Now you talked about logo usage. We do, I'm so glad you asked it. We do have logo usage guidelines, which I will share. And I know you guys have been making a lot of presentations of late. So we do have a template presentation for UNICEF, which has like all the pictures and how do you design, what logos should you use. Let's say if you talk about education, what should the icon be? That nitty-gritties, I will share each and everything right after this workshop. I hope that will help you.
Sure.
Okay, anyone else? Kamini, Kriti?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Raghav, for the presentation. It was quite interactive, so I was engaged in it. And thanks, Arun, for pointing this out, because logos are something I also struggle with, and I find in our internal documents we keep using different styles. So it would be good if you share the logo files as well and its guidelines. One question I have is regarding the consent. So when we are on the field, a lot of times when before clicking the picture, when we ask someone, the family or the child or their guardians, for if we can take the picture, they agree to it. But when it comes to signing the document or giving it in writing, they kind of a bit reluctant to do that.
Yes.
So in that case, what do you suggest?
Okay. So in that case, okay. So what happens is, I as an interviewer can say that when you go and maybe talk to them before actually asking questions to them. This is a hack that I have developed. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you go and simply start asking them questions and keep bombarding them with a lot of your queries, they will be a little taken aback and they might be agree to write consent but not sign it. So what I'm trying to say is establish a rapport with them before your interview, right? Tell them in advance that you're going to be taking consent for it, and yes, talk to them in advance, and then maybe take their signature. Because what happens is, a child may not be in a position to sign. So if maybe his or her guardian, sometimes who happens to be the head of the family, may be a little reluctant. So the only trick that has worked for me is like establishing a rapport with them before your interview starts. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
will work.
that's
Also,
definitely
an easier
important.
easier trick would be, now that we have been working with our communications and partnerships team. They have enabled this procedure of taking consent on WhatsApp, where you actually don't need signed. You know what I mean? If they can WhatsApp you on your number, their name and their a one-line statement that's like, "Hey, I agree to give my photograph to UNICEF." That's it, and we are done.
Does the audio consent also works or it's
Uh,
valid?
Good question, but I think a written consent, because that in that way it's documented. Okay, I will share a
Okay,
sample with you. Don't worry.
like, is audio content consent valid in form of
It is
document?
valid. It is valid, but it's just that I mean, I wouldn't mind, but it's just that as far as the UNICEF CAP standards work, they usually prefer something written, right?
Okay.
So while we were negotiating, remember, I'll take you back to a conversation. While we are negotiating that consultants are finding it difficult to get consent because of COVID times and they cannot travel, only then they agreed to have a WhatsApp WhatsApp consent. I don't think they will agree on the audio consent as such.
Okay, okay.
That means.
Thank
So if you can, I think WhatsApp is easier. Even I have tried it. It's not very difficult. If you find any difficulty, do let me know.
you. Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? Kamini?
Yes,
Bhavna?
yes, Raghav, this is Kamini. Yeah. So thank you so much for the presentation. I think there were many points that you told us, specifically, what mistake we generally tend to make, and these are some specific things that no one talks about, like file, naming of your file, or putting credits to photographer, or
Right.
captioning your pictures. So that, I think, you mentioned about it, and I think that way we will definitely keep it in our mind while documenting anything. And when we document something, if there is any data, or if there is any information that we that we like to put it in a very interesting way, to make our document, so that it can catch the attention. I need to know that, do we have any like list of infographics where we can simply choose that based on what we are trying to mention, what
Perfect.
thematic
Perfect.
area we are
I'm glad
focusing
you
in.
asked it.
And
Yeah.
also some another platform where we can analyze our data and put it in a very informative way. So if that is available, do share with us.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like you said, because like when you say that you want to present data, a lot of people, what I have observed is, while they conduct, let's say, a studies or assessment on the ground, they present data as it is, or in the form of a table, which is very hard for the reader to crunch numbers, right? And becomes very difficult. So,
Exactly.
in order to make it very easily comprehensible by a reader, I would say that concise all those tables into a form of paragraph and present the findings. Okay, point number one. Concise that all that information that you get, let's say Excel sheets, long Excel sheet, in the form of a small paragraph. While you make it in a small paragraph, the key highlight within that small paragraph, let's say the key finding, add that as a blurb. Add that as a blurb, as in highlight that and put it in a box and make it attractive. A good way to make infographics and infogram, there are a few free softwares that we have. One of them is called Infogram, that our monitoring and evaluation team uses constantly. That is called, if you can note that down, it's called Infogram. And it's called, the second one is called Canva. I use Canva very often in order to design my documents. Second is Canva. Third, it would be, I don't know, it will be very useful for you, but it's called PictoChart. PictoChart, the only issue with that is there are very few free samples available. But if you use Canva, there are a lot of free samples available. You can just copy and paste it. Okay.
Actually,
Yeah.
I was going through this infogram which UNICEF uses basically. So I was going through that, but then I don't remember exactly, but there was some issue there. It was asking me for some payment or something. I don't remember exactly. So is it free? Are you sure? Yeah.
Yeah. The M&A team that they use, who use Infogram, have a paid account. You're right. But I think you do let me know if you cannot access for free. But Canva is something that you can access for free. I use it very often. Canva, it's called Canva.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. I will explore that. I will definitely explore that.
And the only issue with all these three apps is that you cannot if you make a design or an infographic, you cannot download that in the form of a Word document.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You can
Yes.
either download it in the form of a PNG, an image, or a PDF. So what I do is I make a document, only make an info chart, infographic only when it's final, like in the end. Make it, take a screenshot and attach it in my case study, if that works.
Okay.
Don't make it in the first place, because there are a lot of changes and you have to go back to the app, make changes, come back, and then re-edit it. So make it in the end.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So a question that I'd like to ask Dave sir, is there any partner organization in the room? Dave sir? Is there any someone from the partner organization in the room? Any?
No, we are all.
Okay, so then I can say this openly. Someone talked about logos. I will share the logo branding, logo guidelines with you. Make sure to keep it to yourself. And whenever, because what we see is a lot of partner organizations, when they design our products, they use our UNICEF logos in a very haphazard way. So before you share your logo designs with you, I would request you to also let the partner organizations also know that how to use logo once you read the logo guidelines. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. When I'll share it with you, you also communicate to your partner organization that you liaise with or collaborate with on a daily basis. Because I see a lot of partner documents and they have used logos which do not comply with UNICEF standards. So just because you are the custodians of UNICEF in Gujarat, it's important that you make that sure. Yeah. And any other questions? We have room for one more question. Anyone wants to come in? Any reflection, any critical, any critique, anything? Dave sir, you want to reinforce something before we wrap?
I think it's 2 hour almost. I think we started at 11:30 and it's 1:30 almost. It's a good deliberation and engaging, active, interactive participation. Some tips which have been given in terms of how to write or how to position our facts and how to be very effective in keeping the audience in mind whom we want to interact with or inform was useful. And the mentee to take the concept about knowledge management tool was rather enabled the engagement with the audience. So it was a very, I would say a very limited team whom we are engaging. But it's given a lot of food for thought how to document things in context to UNICEF audience when we deal with district level or state level officials. And our team in Gujarat is doing quite often this, and this particular orientation will certainly sharpen their skills further. Thank you. Thank you, Raghav and Swati, for organizing this.
Most welcome, sir. And anyone wants to reach out to me for any issues, or you can also reach out to me bilaterally if you come across any, if you want to ask me anything about knowledge management and documentation.
Raghav?
Yes, yes, sir.
Arun here. I have one question.
Yes.
For example, if we want to add any questionnaires in the annexure that we did for a survey, is it good to add the questionnaires directly in the annexure part, or recently I have seen the document link that has been updated there? So is that the right?
Okay. So if you want to make it's the ideal way is add the annexure in the end, add the questionnaire in the annexure, right?
Okay.
But if you can also, if you want to give a link, you should give it in the footnote when you talk about the questionnaire. Is that okay?
Okay.
Like when you talk about the methodology, and there you have to mention the questionnaire, then give a link that these were the key questions that were asked. Or whatever I would say, the good way should be, talking about the methodology, just give 2 or 3 questions, very key questions from the questionnaire in the narrative, and then say for more questions, please refer to, give the link.
Okay. Okay.
And that's about it. So yes, you can reach out to me bilaterally for any issues that you have on knowledge management, documentation, or anything in between. And I, just after this workshop, I will share a set of resources and most importantly, a feedback form on how did you like this workshop, dislike, anything that you want to talk about in the next run of workshop that you have with you. Please punch in your feedback as soon as possible. I'll share the feedback form very soon. Thank you so much. It was nice talking to you. I think it was a long session, but a very productive one. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raghav. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.